Thank you to all in attendance. I know I'm a very prestigious voice in the community, and my opinion matters very much. Now, without further ado, here's my top 13 of the year! I played a lot of games this last year. Here's all the games that I played last year that I will not be talking about, because I wanted to narrow this list exclusively to games that I finished, have something to say, and genuinely recommend that you give a shot. See your favorite game on the list behind me? It's probably because it's a bad game, and you should video, like and subscribe. If you're still around after that, congrats. This is for the real ones. In addition to good gameplay, here are the things that generally matter to me in a game, in no particular order. I call them the 6 S's of gaming, being soundtrack, story, silliness, style, attention to detail, and success. And that last one is on there because there's so much media out there that I'm generally wary of investing my time into something that was either poorly received or even just mid. Not that I'm a monkey that needs to play the most popular game because big number, but for the people that like the things that I like, I want to know that the experience was worth the effort. So without further ado, here are my top 13 games that I played this year. Not games that came out this year. Be sure to stick around to the end. Numbers 1 through 13 will blow your mind. Crash Bandicoot is a fun little 3D platformer with a lot of that early gaming charm, especially in the early levels. The soundtrack and level design has a very sweet and friendly quality to it. It reminds you of what games used to sound and feel like. The platforming feels good in the early game, and each zone ends with a unique boss fight that has a silly gimmick or platforming puzzle built in. Unfortunately, the platforming felt less rewarding toward the end of the game. The forced camera perspective and the digital inputs on the controller led to a lot of deaths that felt more like jank rather than a lack of skill on my part. And I'm not one to be a big baby about BS in games. I've bested Hollow Knight's Path of Pain, and that's because that game had earned my trust that the platforming sections would have a satisfying payoff, which I felt less and less as Crash continued on. But don't take my criticism as a knock against the game's quality. Any negative that I have to say on this list is far outweighed by the recommendation that you try these games yourself. And despite my problems with it, I still finished Crash Bandicoot because the draw was worth my time. Like, look at this little freak look back at the camera before riding his hog. Watch this little idiot jump for joy after finishing a boss fight. Like, come on, man. And even in the late game, there were still cool and unique level concepts that I'd never seen before. Give this game a shot. It's a classic. It's worth it. I think the first Spyro is definitely a better game than Crash, mostly because it left me less pissed off and had a more satisfying gameplay loop. It's a cute, open world collectathon where the charisma of the game just bleeds through the level design. Like, this game doesn't creep up in depth of gameplay or rely on anything flashy to keep you interested. The core gameplay is just fun, and it certainly helps that these goofy-ah enemies make silly sounds when they die. One of my favorite parts of the game are the interactions between Spyro and the dragons that you free. Spyro is voiced by the GOAT Tom Kenny, and you can't help but love the personality on the little guy.
Where's Nasty Nork? I'll torch him.
Keep your horns on, Spyro! You have much to learn first!
Really, this is an easy baby game, but it still holds up as a lot of fun. Donkey Kong Country made me realize, maybe I just don't care for platformers. Like, they're always fun in the early game, but I end up just getting pissed off because the levels feel like BS. Like, this stupid minecart level took me a million tries, and that was with using save states like a little baby man. On top of that, the art design was always a little off-putting to me. Like, something about the shading makes it look like early stop animation. So why did I finish this game? One word. Music. This game has some of the hardest ambient tracks that I find myself going back to again and again. You drop into the 4th level of the game, and it's like you're living a vaporwave at it. And before and after every time I played this game, I would just let the level select song play because Simian Segue is such a banger. Despite my frustration, this game was actually really good. It was satisfying to complete each level, and little details kept me going as I progressed. Like how there was more reverb in the cave levels, or all the secret rooms, or if you left the controller for a second, Donkey Kong would lose his mind. Like, Diddy's idle animation makes sense and isn't super disruptive, but Donkey Kong unleashes that MF beast. The boss fights were a treat too. There's a little something in the final boss that made me feel like a fool for letting my gamer guard down. It's too bad that my goat used to look busted for real.
Bro, please, bro!
Flyknight is a charming little first-person Souls-like with lively RuneScape inspiration. There's even a slider where you can change the frames of the animations based on your preferred nostalgic level. I never played RuneScape, but I just love the vibes of the early fantasy media. Far and away, the best part of the game is that the dungeon crawl can be co-op. Even though it's super short, there were a ton of silly gamer moments where a friend and I were slamming through dungeons and communicating with randos through emotes. My only qualm with the game is that even though it was super short, the pacing was still weird, and I think it's because of the camera. The boss fights were really fun and dynamic, and the perspective felt perfect for those moments, but the dungeon crawling felt kind of slow at times. Maybe a shared inventory would help, because when you're walking for like a full 2 minutes to get a weapon, it's not always worth it when you're just going to want to go back to the circle fist or the big stupid hammer. The cosmetics are super cool, which is a must for any Souls-like game, and the devs seem really passionate about adding more stuff. Definitely worth the $6 on Steam. Parappa the Rapper is a fever dream of a rhythm game that hooks you so easily with how goofy it is. It's got that Japanese game show effect where every new thing has got you like, there's no way this is real, right? So basically you're a broke chud that wants to impress this flower shoddy that keeps getting hit on by this Chad dog that is definitely too old to be pursuing a child. So you go through learning karate and getting your driver's license and learning to cook and making money, and all of this is so you can impress her. And there's an entire level dedicated to you eating the cake you made for her and it effing up your guts, so you drive to the nearest gas station, and the whole time the flower girl is getting turned on by your pissed off poop face. Then you have to rap battle each of the characters from the previous levels to get bathroom privileges, or else you yourself. And the whole thing ends with a rap dance party. See, it's very Christian coded. Anyway, my only qualm with the game is that the grading system is weird. Visually, it's very funny. But every person I gave the controller to, they were like, what? Are the inputs not on beat? So I can firmly deny the white boy no rhythm allegations. But the songs are goofy bangers, and even if you don't play it, it's worth the 30-minute watch through. All right, I know it's silly to include this, but this is my video and I have things to say, so f*** yourself now! Everyone and their mom has played Minecraft. I don't need to get into selling the idea, but I think I figured out why people have such obsessive Minecraft phases that completely fall off a cliff like they never happened in the first place. As obvious as it may seem, the game is what you make of it. And people go big style for like 2 weeks and then forget about it because they run out of things they want to do. Like, I want to build a nice farm and explore caves and find diamonds, but I never want to get blaze rods or farm XP. And I used to look down on switching to creative or using command cheats, but this is exactly what they're made for. And on the flip side, this game is made much more fun by adding constraints that matter to you. Like, I think it's more fun to enchant things myself rather than rely on mending or books, and I want to find diamonds organically while exploring rather than mindlessly grinding the appropriate Y coordinates. And in addition to freeing myself from true survival mode, the most recent update added shaders and a huge exploration component. So the next time Minecraft grips you, see how much longer it lasts by adding constraints that matter to you and cutting the ones that don't. I can see how this inspired an entire genre. Like, Hollow Knight is the gold standard for Metroidvanias, but it is amazing how much of Metroid's DNA is found in it. Even more than the base Metroid formula of non-linear exploration, you run into a roadblock which drives you to explore more. Hollow Knight also has enemies that crawl in a circle around a platform, scene transition between rooms, and getting locked in a room until you kill all the things. I was also surprised to see super creative things that I've never seen before or since, like a platforming challenge where the enemies are the light source, so the more you kill, the less you can progress, or getting grappled by a boss and having to damage yourself to kill it. All the boss fights are super sick, and there was a track that would make me laugh every time it played. Like, I get that part of the charm of old games is that they were able to do so much with the limited capabilities of the medium, but this is like Buttons OST. Okay, cool, this is a science area. Give it a shot. It makes watching speedruns that much more impressive. On that note, the end screen has less and less armor on Samus depending on how fast you finish the game, which is a weird choice, but also hell yeah. Animal Well is a highly stylized marvel of a puzzle platformer, and it just envelops you in its ambience. It's the kind of game that just calls for quiet. The use of lighting and sound in such a limited graphic medium fosters wonder, but also tension. The exciting sections of the game took me by surprise every time. Like, how the hell did they make a wiener dog so scary? Platforming is unique, and the puzzles are creative and innovative, making the game fun to explore and re-explore. Cruelty Squad is a depraved game for freaks. It plays a lot like a first-person Hitman, but it is definitely hard to swallow. With the oppressive screen border, big life counter, and the generally disgusting sound design and textures, this isn't your traditional game of any kind. But that's just the thing. This game is so unapologetic in its style, and it fits the story it's trying to tell perfectly. This game is set in a world where capitalism has thoroughly run its course and become God. Everything you see and everything you do serves the consumerism and narcissistic values of the shadow government. Life, and everything in it, is meaningless. And damn, it's so cool! Total disregard for anything natural and sacred has you using these gross body mods like the Grapendix, an additional external intestine for climbing and swinging, smooth, slick, and strong. It pulsates. And gunk boosters. Boost yourself upwards in midair by releasing a jet of assorted biological detritus. Makes a huge mess that is extremely unpleasant to clean up. Also, you can swing around like a cracked out Spider-Man to kill people harder and faster. There's an in-game stock market that you can invest in, and stocks will pump or tank based on where you are in the game. And you can collect rare organs off people you've reduced to meat and sell those too. Cruelty Squad is hard, and it does not tell you how things work. In that way, it scratches the die learn itch that I love out of gaming. And with a ranking system based solely on time, it makes you want to get good even harder. There's also lots of secrets and bonus content, and 3 endings that get cooler the farther along you go. And all of it is coupled with some of the hardest gaming one-liners you'll ever see. The sun smiles at you with eternal malice. When the beat drops, I'm gonna kill myself. Anyway, that's about it. See ya. If you're still not convinced, go watch the Pyro video on it. It is 4 hours long, and I've watched it twice. It regularly goes on sale for like $7, so give it a shot. It's a game you can't help but think of when you see news of any kind. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a gamer must-play. Doesn't matter what genres you stick to or what type of gameplay you usually enjoy. If you consider yourself a gamer, you need to play this game. This is the most immersive RPG of all time, with an atmosphere that has you stopping everything to take in the digital sunrise. Everyone that has experienced this story just got shot in the heart with an engraved 6-shooter. That's because the story of this gang of outlaws grips you so tightly with its emotional nuance and impeccable voice acting, but all of it pales in comparison to the main character. Arthur Morgan is one of the most realized characters in all of fiction. His wit is charming without being corny, he's got a moral compass and he believes the best in folks, but he's not above violence to protect those he cares about. And the progression of disillusionment of his worldview is so grounded that you never feel out of step with his character development. Now, this game isn't without flaws. A lot of the time, it basically plays itself, and the combat has about as much depth as a Zelda minigame. The most painful of all is the contrast between the attention to detail in the open world and the way the game just pulls control out of your hands so it can hit a story beat. Like, I was never upset at where the story was, but how it got there was frustrating. But despite all that, even if I only had 10 minutes to game in a day, it was always worth my precious gamer time to go find a spot by the river and just fish.
Anything bad, I wonder.
Ghost of Tsushima wastes no time drawing you into its setting and conflict. Within the first 5 minutes, you get a sense of the polish, but also desperation of the samurai in the face of the savage might of the Mongol Empire. Without a word, the Mongol leader spits in the face of everything the samurai stand for. And what follows is an absolute massacre. Miraculously surviving, the main character Jin Sakai must trust the help of a lowly thief who leads him towards his first departure from the life he's always known. This game rips. Incredibly satisfying gameplay loop centered around parrying in a world of infinite aura. The combat system incentivizes risk while also prioritizing control, so when it finally clicks, you feel like the badass samurai assassin that Jin is becoming. Like, when I first started this game, it took me a full hour to reclaim a Mongol camp, and by the end, I was ripping through like 40 dudes in less than a minute. And also playing the game super fast. Like, there's so much finesse required to master this game, except for the grappling hook. Timing is so critical for combat, but when it comes to the grappling hook, you just become Spider-Man! It's really funny to me. But seriously, almost everything in this game feels like it was lovingly crafted by people who care about the medium. Like, rather than doing the Witcher or Bethesda thing of just taking a static over-the-shoulder shot for a dialogue section, this game uses these wide angles that make every side quest feel like the most dramatic part of the game. And every single mission starts with this title screen gimmick that never got old. Half of these things are barely worth doing, but I couldn't help pursuing them because they look like this! And the same thing with the boss fights. The build-up animation is the same every single time. But when that sword clicked, I got bricked. That's really dumb. Then now that I'm actually saying that out loud, that's really dumb. I guess I'm sticking with it. Now such a huge theme through my playthrough. I love that so often a bonus to doing something that I was already invested in were more cosmetics. And even more so that those cosmetics could be tailored to certain builds to match a specific mission vibe. Like, of course I want to wear the legendary archer armor during the missions of an archery sensei seeking out their rogue pupil. Thank you for giving me more reasons to do so! I got so caught up designing fits and builds that my wife said it was like I was playing with dolls. You know what? She's right. I'm sorry to all the Webkinz Supermodels invites that I ignored when I was 9. I guess I really do like playing virtual dress up. This world never got stale. Each area built up to this really beautiful aesthetic that I would find myself stopping to look out on every time I got to the edge of a cliff or a field. I've talked about how much I love video games' ability to make you pause and reflect, and I'm so glad that is built into the game in the form of haikus. Choosing to take a moment and reflect on the story and gaze wistfully on the environment was such an incredible creative decision. And this also builds Jin's character as a master of body, mind, and spirit. The haiku format is so easy that even months after playing the game, I still find myself writing my own. For me, it feels like microdosing, the creative sense of like writing a joke or making something silly in Photoshop. And the people around me can always tell when I'm doing it because I'll just be staring at a cloud like... This was a really interesting game to follow Red Dead up with. The story of these two's disillusionment paralleled really beautifully. So much so that I don't think there are a better set of story games to pair with one another. Both of these games have this tremendous musical swells that make the big moments count, while also leaning into quiet ambience that make you want to just cozy up and live in the world. It definitely helps that the lack of a HUD keeps you from being an absolute stimmery. I do think that Red Dead has an objectively better story, but Ghost ends on such a compelling note, and just thinking about Jin's final cry of anguish chills me to the bone every time. Nonetheless, Ghost gameplay just feels too good to master and manipulate in a way that Red Dead's never could. Maybe if Arthur Morgan learned how to parry, then Red Dead wouldn't be unplayable trash.
You're alright, boy.
The opening of Nine Souls is a masterclass of beginning at the end. Within the first 2 minutes, you already have a taste of the setting, the antagonist, and the main character's motivation. When Yi awakens from these tentacle-like roots that drew him into the cliffside, he's met with and taken care of by Xuan, a naively optimistic child. Over the short tutorial, you learn that Xuan is an orphan. It's been a year of recovery since Yi emerged from the roots, and there's a festival this evening. Yi aura farms his way through the festival, and you learn a little bit about this cute rural tribe and their religion centered around the 10 souls. This festival marks the yearly celebration where 3 villagers are chosen to ascend with the souls, Xuan being one of the chosen. When you arrive at the ceremony, you're met with this shockingly advanced shrine that contrasts heavily with the straw buildings of the village you were just in. What follows is the most jaw-dropping ritual I have ever seen in a game. Tension builds as the villagers advance, right up until Xuan steps up to the altar.
必顺K 零度针。
You descend into the shrine and find that the facade of the village goes so much deeper than you could have imagined. But how did we get here? What events transpired with these techno-spiritual cat people that set Yi on this path to revenge? Uncovering that mystery is the beauty of Nine Souls. This game is incredible. Just a perfect Sekiro-like Metroidvania with beautiful art style and flawless pacing. Something I love about the parry system in this game is it reminds you how fragile you are. This game uses an internal damage mechanic, where if you hit an imperfect parry, you won't lose health, but damage accumulates in the background over time. But one wrong move and it's over. This incentivizes the risk of a perfect parry, and God, it feels so good to master a boss without taking any damage. And that's just the parrying. Everything else feels so finely crafted. From ripping a boof off your medicine pipe to heal, to the visual style shift during the big moments, this game just bleeds quality. And the Metroidvania aspects are self-contained in a way that keeps the super fleshed out world from being overwhelming. That's because pacing must have been at the very forefront of development, because there's hardly a wasted minute in this game. This world is so heavily steeped in Asian mythology, and every single upgrade and boss fight and character moment and platforming section is so well spaced out that you never feel tired of one aspect of the game. And they do it all while telling one of the most human stories I have ever experienced. Yi forming this surrogate older brother relationship with Xuan added such an exquisite layer to the exploration and story progression of the game. So much so that every time I got an item to give to him, I stopped everything I was doing in order to see how these characters would interact. And it leads to this blossoming of the hub world from a headquarters into a home that parallels Yi's character growth. Like, all of the optional achievements in this game are stylized like Xuan drew him himself. Like, come on, man. I can't help but compare this game to the first Last of Us, and I know that is extremely high praise for most gamers out there. But both of these games feature perfect pacing and challenging combat in a world where touching character moments contrast with the brutal reality of the setting. Nine Souls even has cat zombies! But where I think Nine Souls succeeds over The Last of Us is the motivations of the antagonists and the reasons for the apocalyptic setting have actual weight. The Last of Us relies more heavily on the general consensus that, oops, zombies happened. That means the government is corrupt and people are going to be cruel and selfish because it's every man for himself. But in Nine Souls, they built all of this from scratch, so that when you find out why there are cat zombies and why this super society needs to harvest brains and why a little flower blooms every time a main character dies, it hits and it adds to the narrative. There's a moment towards the end of the game where, just through stories and conversations he's overheard, Xuan has started to put together the mystery of his existence. He and Yi have this touching conversation about what life means, and Yi seems to finally understand how wrong he's always been. And this game has the gall, the absolute chutzpah, to give you an ending where none of that growth comes to fruition? Like the main character is a real person that learns these lifelong lessons and still chooses the wrong path? This is the first and only game that I've ever finished and immediately restarted, and oh my god, I cannot stress enough, I believe this is the intended way to experience the game. The non-linear storytelling feels so much richer now that you've gotten to peer behind the curtain. This game is pretty clear about the direction of the main questline, but there's no log that keeps you from missing the ends of the banger side quests. That's why I missed the true ending, because like Yi, I wanted to mainline the revenge story. I saved these village bozos already, what else could possibly go wrong? But by saving these people, Yi's able to finally let go of the salvation for his own people that he staked everything on, and lost it all. This understandably leads to the true ending, where you get the saddest contextual reveal I've ever seen, and perhaps the best final boss in any game ever made, and all of it crescendoing to an ending that made me weep. Nine Souls is a masterpiece. Never before had I been gripped so tightly by a combination of gameplay and non-linear storytelling that wrung me dry of every bit of sorrow and heartache that it could squeeze from me. And how'd they do it all while making a Fall Guys color palette work? This is a piece of media that I will probably compare everything to for the foreseeable future. My 2 playthroughs barely took 45 hours, so if you like hard games, please give this a shot. I would love to make a 4-hour Pyro-style video about the game, the 2 manga they released, and the ARG they hid inside the game. Maybe someday I will. This game was quickly on its way to dethroning Hollow Knight as my favorite game of all time. And then Silksong came out. A About 3 years ago, I played Hollow Knight for the first time. It was in kind of a big transition period of my life where we were in our first year of marriage and had just moved to a new city so I could start school. Everything was just so different. This game had always been recommended by friends, but I didn't think I could get into the 2D format. Like, I play real gamer games where you shoot a gun or dodge a roll, and 2D games are for babies. But for what it was when so much of my real life was uncertain and changing, Hollow Knight was the only thing I was ever thinking about. I'll never forget the absolute wonder of exploring that world with my wife and trying to get good while puzzling out the mysterious lore of these cute little bug people. It was perfect and has lived in the back of my mind from the moment I first took the controller. When the news dropped that Silksong, after 8 years of near silence, would be releasing in 2 weeks, it was like a holiday. I was blowing up my friends' group chats, and my wife and I were making arrangements to get the release day off in yet another big learning and transition time in our lives. So when we sat down to start this game, I shed a real-life tear, because it was like I was home again. Silksong is a Souls-like Metroidvania with an amazing open world and incredible story. I mean it when I say it. This is the best game ever made, and it is everything a sequel should be. From the very start of the game, everything feels so responsive. The animations are so clean and smooth in a way that allows it to have these crazy dynamic combat and platforming sequences. Almost every boss fight in Gauntlet feels like this intense dance. So much so that insane moves like this have been dubbed the Sawtooth Waltz. But it's not just Hollow Knight 2, this feels like a whole new game to master. In place of the charm system, there are these crests that determine your fighting style, and when you find the one that fits your playstyle or preferred build, it feels like the only way the game is meant to be played. And even more than the platforming and combat, the exploration elements from the first game have been vastly expanded on. Oh, you want a fast travel companion with a satisfying questline? Guess what, idiot? You gotta fight it first. Cute little collectathon freaks that provide more than enough incentive to dive into danger? Well, guess what? They have a family now, and you gotta find a home for him. Silly little night guy that thinks he's him? Now you gotta... These devs are so good at writing and presenting characters that you fall in love with instantly. You'll be exploring this vast ruined kingdom where the environment is rife with the scars of past suffering. And you'll run into this little freak that fits the world so perfectly or contrastingly that you can't help but adore or admire all of them. With the cryptic storytelling and brutal and precise combat all set in the bones of this long decayed land, I can't help but compare this game to Elden Ring. But you know what Elden Ring could never get across from me? Get me to care about the stupid idiots that you interact with along the way. Like, Master Hugo's kind of sad, I guess. And after hours of lore videos, I finally came around to really feeling bad for, like, Millicent and Melania. But I never got that when I was actually holding the controller. But I would die in real life to protect Sherma. I'll probably get Chakra tattooed on my body because everything about her is so cool. And something even Hollow Knight didn't do is give the main character a voice. I still ended up loving nearly every NPC in the first game, but learning about Hornet and sympathizing and identifying with her character gave me all the more reasons to connect with this game. In a way, I respect the FromSoft games for building a community where you have to pore over item descriptions and data mine in order to understand anything that's going on. But I think so much is missed when you build a world that you can't piece together and understand while you're actually playing the game. There's still so much mystery in Silksong, but through these characters, you can piece together the story in a way that motivates you to press on. And the questions that are left leave you curious and not clueless. When I got about halfway through the game, I was actually a little disappointed in the soundtrack. The first Hollow Knight had these earworm type songs that could snap you back to an environment or a boss fight no matter what you were doing. Silksong seemed to have gotten away from the simple yet enchanting melodies that made the first one so memorable. But I came to find out that I was only halfway through the first third of the game. This game has such a wide range of heaters, from somber moments that make you reflect on the plight of the inhabitants of the world to these grand bombastic bangers that make you want to beat the whole game then and there. This is what the Poison Swamp area should sound like. This is Cruelty Squad music, by the way. This is what it actually sounds like. Then you finish a quest and save a haunted town and the game is just like... You start the game with the objective of ascending the Kingdom of Farloom to reach the Great Citadel. With this game having song in the name and all of the choral themes as you climb, the idea of the Citadel of Song begins to balloon into this impossible expectation of grandeur that can't possibly be delivered on. Then they absolutely deliver with this song that hits every single time. This game will look good forever. The style is so unique in a way that will never age. Just take a look at this environment. It's actually Hollow Knight, by the way, and that came out almost 9 years ago. Here are some other games that came out in 2017. That's because what's super realistic one year almost never lasts even a decade as hardware progresses. But this will always look good. Which brings me to my last point. Why the hell did Silksong lose so many Game of the Year awards to a game that looks like every other fantasy RPG? Like, sure, I know that 2D is a little more foreign to gamers these days, and hard games can struggle to have mass appeal, but Team Cherry was robbed in art direction. One guy drew this entire game by hand! Expedition 33 will look mid in 10 years! And sure, I'm extremely biased, but Game of the Year to a game with turn-based combat? More like turd-based combat, bro, what? I guarantee that absolutely nothing in that game feels as good as the Phantom boss fight or the Ascent out of the Abyss. And hell yeah, I'm judging a book by its cover. People are like, oh, you fight abstract concepts. How about you fight the abstract concept of my balls and butthole? I may try this game in the coming year to see what all the fuss is about, but don't hold your breath. I just have a feeling it's not it. Am I a cornball for gushing so hard over this silly bug game? Yes, but this game is really special. These absolute darling devs released a once-in-a-lifetime game for $20. It's already gone on sale, and the DLC they just announced is going to be free. With every secret room or hidden area or surprising detail, this game gave me a sense of awe that absolutely crushed my memory of Skyrim from when I was 12. And it reminded me why I love video games so much. Don't play this game, because you'll never reach this high again. That's it. Thank you for coming to my Glaze Fest. I had the idea for this video like 7 months ago, and I've been really excited for it ever since. My only hope for this project is that you try some of these games and maybe they have an impact on you, because they definitely had an impact on me. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more of my stuff. Big number is the only reason I have to live. And thanks for watching my video. I'll probably do this again next year. Really, guys.